All right, guys, welcome back to the next episode of the Grand Prairie PD podcast. I am your host, Nate, and I'm here with Joe today.
Hello again, as I stand in, but today we have a special guest. We have Grant here. Grant's another fellow deployment unit officer, as well as one of our SWAT operators. We're on the same team, both on SWAT and for the deployment unit, so happy to have you here, Grant.
Yep. I just brought you back onto my team on SWAT.
It's true. It's true.
Tactically acquired him.
There's some authority there.
Yeah.
There is some. We were on the same team, and then he went over to the other team, and then now he brought me over to his team as of Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is this a situation where we can talk about why we're running away from one team?
No, it was just changing positions on a team. So I was on blue team, and then I was still on the snipers, and I was a sniper ATL, and then opportunity came to be entry ATL assistant team leader. So I took that on gold team.
Okay.
And now I'm getting bumped up to team leader on gold team, and he is taking the assistant team leader.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Just following in his
The
footsteps.
two of you are in charge of everything.
On one side, yes. So it is kind of scary, but don't worry. Don't worry. We typically, the guesses that we make is typically pretty okay. Most of the things have ended pretty well.
Yeah, they seem to work out.
Yeah, like in the end, it's
You're both still alive.
Yeah.
and so is everybody else, and maybe not so much property damage, but it's all been okay in the past. We've actually gotten into more trouble on the deployment unit we have on
I
SWAT.
believe it.
So like it's
believe
it's
it.
less one and more the other.
You ever have moments where you thought about being a cop for, at least in my case, I wanted to do it, pretty much my whole life, and then you realize something like I'm ATL and TL with my buddy, and you're just like, holy we're in charge of things.
Yeah.
And then you think back to the years before, you're like, those guys knew just as much as I do now, and it's like, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Kind of being a parent.
Yep. Yeah. You gotta fake it till you make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. A lot of pretending.
But like I'm not yet, despite what my wife says, but I'm coming up on my mid-30s, and there's so many things I'm starting to wonder, like, when do you make it? Like, we've been kind of just getting along for a long time, and nothing, like, it's not clicked, like, oh, I really have this figured out.
Gonna be like an 80-year-old guy, still like, man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it eventually.
I never got smart.
Damn, does that mean making it's dying?
Yeah.
I was hoping we were going to start off on like a
Yeah,
real
you know what?
positive
That's
note.
that get dark real fast. Like
Now, for the people who don't know, you're talking about being team leader and assistant team leader on a SWAT team. Explain those roles a little bit as far as how they're differentiated between the normal guys.
So since we don't have a full-time SWAT team, we have we've split. We have 24 operators plus medics plus some auxiliary guys, which are like the probationary guys. Okay. And so we split that into two teams. That way, you're not on call 24/7. You're on call 2 weeks, and then the other team goes on call 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, anytime something happens SWAT related, it takes priority over anything else you're doing.
Okay.
And,
So what is the general approach to being on call? Like, what are you expected to do? So say a shooting happens and a guy holds up in a house.
You're supposed to be able to respond within 45 minutes, so you shouldn't be leaving anywhere. They can't respond within 45 minutes. Shouldn't be drinking, anything like that. That would hinder you from responding within the 45 minutes.
Is that like being on scene at the house with your gear in 45 minutes, or you're getting to the station?
Yeah, on scene or at the station. If you have all your gear with you, as some guys do, when they have take-homes, that they're able to go straight to the scene. You're going to have some guys who are working because they're doing other jobs. They're on patrol, so they'll be able to like get most of the gear going. And then once we get all the gear there, we just start sending notices to people. Hey, just come straight to the scene. You don't have to go start prepping gear.
That's what I was going to ask. So say you're the first guy shows up. Hey, this call out went out. You roll up to the station. You're the first guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's on your priority list? Where do you?
You're getting all the team equipment as soon as possible. So you're getting all the vehicles. We always take 3 different vehicles that have a certain loadout for each call out, and so that's his task is getting all that stuff.
You just take everything for every situation, or you kind of triage each one?
No, we have a call out checklist, and so each vehicle has that call out checklist. So you just pick a vehicle, start loading that. Once that one's checked off, then you go to the next one. And so that way anybody showing up knows like where in line you are or in the prepping.
Gotcha.
And so and then you convoy that there and meet up with the guys who are already on scene.
Okay. But once you're there and you're actually dealing with the situation, being TO, ATO, are you Is that more of a logistical command type role, or are you actually making command decisions in the field as far as tactics and whatnot go?
So you have a SWAT commander on scene. He stays kind of in the command bus, and the TL is more going back and forth between the people on scene and the command bus, and making most of the command decisions with the SWAT commander. SWAT commander, for most things that aren't time sensitive, SWAT the commander has like the say all. To say yes, this is where we're going. But TL is making the plans. ATL is making a lot of on-scene plans. So the ATL stays at the scene, and he's like the eyes and ears for the TL, making on-scene judgments, letting him know what's going to happen, and then anything that needs to be like an immediate leadership decision, the ATL can do that. And then ATL is always first one through the door, so it's probably the funnest job on SWAT. Yeah.
What's the thought process there, and why?
Your TL is he's more of a management or managing the scene. So he's still going in, but he's normally like towards the back of the stack, so he can like see what's going on, all those kind of things, make the decisions. Hey, if we need to pull back, go around to the side, whatever it is. And then you're having a like-minded brain up front who knows the reasons why you're doing everything, who's a senior operator and if he's seeing something up there, he can adjust from the front. So that way you're leading from the front and from the back. And so they're acting. They have to be people who are like-minded, understand why we do everything, understand our tactics, stuff like that. So
right.
Well, that first foothold's really important, because it's like getting into through the front door, because that's obviously super predictable, and getting into that first room. Once you've kind of got that foothold in the house, then things can kind of slow down. But you just need somebody that that's why typically it's senior operators towards the front of the stack, that they can get into that first area and establish that dominance before pushing into the rest of the structure. So, like you said, there's a lot of, like, you go in immediately, like you could be encountering 13 people or some sort of obstruction that then would need to make a snap decision. So just having senior guys towards the front that have seen a lot and done a lot, that's going to be able to help them make that decision. I also get coffee and pick up his dry cleaning too, so that's the other perk.
That's good.
So he rewards me with letting me going first. If I don't pick up his dry cleaning in time, back of the stack, carrying the fire extinguisher,
right.
like that's where you end up.
Yeah.
The first time I made entry, I was super nervous that it was going to be like a Marine Corps kind of deal, where it was like, cool, you're new, get up front, just to make you as miserable as possible.
Yeah.
And we all lined up, and the first time somebody pointed at me like, yeah, you're in the back. We read the order or whatever. I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
But now you went from sniper to entry.
Right.
So
when you first get on, you're just kind of like filling out the tactics and stuff like that. And normally it takes a little while to get on sniper team, but so our sniper team also goes with entry and all that stuff. Some teams are completely separate. Ours is intermingled. It just depends on like what the operation is, where they're going to be. So you have to know your sniper job and your entry job. So everybody on a team has a secondary job. So you're either the robot guy and entry, you're the gas guy, you're an ATL, you're a TL, you're a sniper. So everybody has or an explosive breacher. So everybody has a secondary job. And so when you first get on, you're just learning the tactics for a little bit, and that's kind of what the aux is for. We're testing you out, seeing how you handle stress, if you can make the team. And then once you make the team, then you're going to get assigned something. Normally robot operators pretty early, just because it's not as high stress.
right.
And then so there just happened to be a sniper opening. They were low when I got on. So I got on snipers within like the first 6 months, which is pretty rare.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I was on sniper team for 5 years. Became one of the senior snipers, became ATL for snipers, which is like what he did too. And then the opening on entry, ATL, which is you're an ATL you have a TL and an ATL on snipers, but they fall into the other teams.
Mm-hmm.
So while they are leadership, the ATL was technically a promotion, kind of. I guess you're in charge of different things.
Right.
Went back to that. So I was looking, and it's good to get in snipers first, because you see what they're doing. I understand, like, hey, why is it taking the sniper so long to set up? If they have to move, why does it take so long?
Right.
What are they seeing? What are they calling out to me? Those kind of things, because they are a lot of your intelligence. They're your eye on the house, not just sitting back behind a gun. They're actually like looking and telling you what's going on. So
right.
knowing what they're doing and what goes into that helps you to be able to picture everything on the scene.
Now, you mentioned explosive breaches a second ago, and it's funny when you made the comment like, yeah, you got first in the door. That's a little predictable, or it's always predictable. My first thought was like, not really, because you have other options besides doors. How often are y'all utilizing that? Or I guess not really how often, but have y'all gotten to utilize those types of tactics where you're just blowing a wall up? I can tell by your face the interest is somewhat.
We train it, but it's more that would be like a hostage rescue thing instead of like warrant service or something like that. Which is what we mainly do. So we train that. We have those capabilities, but we just haven't really utilized them operationally since I've been on the team. So,
I mean, like with anything else in this job, it's got to be reasonable.
Right.
So like serving a narcotics search warrant wouldn't necessarily be reasonable to blow a hole in the wall instead of going through the front door or back door, sliding glass door, or whatever it is. Oh, absolutely. Like
I thought you never just look at the door. You're like, that's a nice door.
Well,
I don't want to hurt it.
Well, it's like in the was that movie SWAT with Colin Farrell where they shoot like the harpoon through it and it like expands and they just pull this. It's like a barricaded crazy guy and then just pulls the wall. I mean, as cool as that would be, and I would definitely probably watch that body camera footage over and over again.
Everyone would, because it's got to be on trial.
It's not, it's not super reasonable on something like that. So yes, it is trained, it is a tactic, it is available. We do have tools for that, but it's got to be used in a situation that's the only way in order to try to safeguard either us or the people inside,
right? Versus
just. Like, oh yeah, you sell meth. We're going through your wall. Like it's just not exactly as a.
You might have fewer people selling meth though.
Would we? Would we? I don't know.
Try.
I don't know. And some of the houses.
Good approach.
Well, and some of the houses we hit, if we
what we're doing is not working. So.
No. But some of the houses that we've hit, if we go through a wall, there's a chance that whole house might actually come down. So it might look bad.
Now, he mentioned the whole SWAT movie and whatnot. Cops always deal with the whole, oh my God, you're a cop. Tell me your nastiest story, your funniest, whatever. Is that like just way worse for you being on SWAT, especially having been on it for so many years?
You see a lot of hoarder houses, a lot of just like really.
But I mean, as far as like people just like, oh my God, you're on SWAT. Tell me how, like, what's LL Cool J like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're always, everybody wants that like cool SWAT story.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like, well, we stood around for 6 hours and called them out.
Right, yeah.
And then I get 30 seconds of cool stuff.
Yeah, so.
Do you try to avoid underwhelming people or just tell them the truth?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. You have like that one or two that you like tell them, you're like, oh, it's awesome. You're like, yeah, that's how it always is.
Yeah. What is, if you had to say, what like that one of those go-to stories for SWAT that's just cool, what would one of those be?
Well, we had a naked guy that was like out pointing his gun at naked people. Yeah. Then climbed up in his attic and was in his attic in the middle of the summer for like 6 hours or something.
We were out there for a while.
And it was like a super hoarder house. So we gas it to try to get him to come out. And we've gassed like multiple times. We're surrounding the house about to make a entry. And we hear him just screaming, and then we hear a large crash, and he had fallen through his roof into his house onto his pile of stolen bikes. Oh. And then he comes out, like kicking the door out. It's an inward opening door that he's trying to kick out. So we end up like ripping the door off, and then he's not listening and like reaching for stuff. So then he gets tased. And
he's naked this whole time.
Naked the whole time, right? So then like we drag him out, we get him there. We're about to take him into handcuffs, and it was like, all right, like cuffs. Somebody do cuffs, and everybody's just like looking at each other, like, who's doing that? He was like, look, new guy, like cuffs. So then we had to go clear that house, and he was still up there, or he had his gun when he fell through. It was still up in the attic. So
he just couldn't hang on to it.
Yeah, I think he ended up having to go to the hospital because he was so dehydrated from just sitting there sweating for that many hours. But
yeah, the only saving grace was that it was night, so that wasn't like getting direct sun.
That's good. Yeah,
He wasn't cooking like baking. He was just like steaming himself. If he was broccoli, so it definitely, and he was nasty. Just covered in attic stuff, sweat, and whatever he was high on. It was just,
You're jumping to judgment. He might have just been an eccentric guy.
Okay, high on life. You get high on drugs or high on life, but I'm gonna go with the former. Just basically because he was a guy we knew. Like it wasn't like some randos.
Right.
It was someone we've all dealt with before out on that street.
Now you being in SWAT and doing snipers and police officer, whatnot, and your history with the Marine Corps, like none of that's surprising from someone who knows you in this particular part of your life. Was that kind of how you saw things going since you were younger?
No, I never saw myself being a cop. So grew up in South Dallas. I lived in South Dallas, but it was right next to Duncanville, so I went to Duncanville schools and stuff. My parents were actually like missionaries. We weren't supposed to be in Texas we weren't supposed to be in Dallas very long. We were supposed to go to Kenya after like 1 year being here. My dad did construction and stuff. So when he became a missionary, that was where they were putting him, like building stuff. And then they just happened to build up the headquarters in Dallas. So they needed him here. And so his whole like missionary career was mainly just in Dallas building like their headquarter buildings. He traveled, months at a time to go to other countries to build stuff. But as a family never did. So
that's crazy. I mean, you have one decision that, differentiate between you growing up in Dallas versus growing up in Kenya.
Yeah.
I mean, how drastically different your life would
I don't know how it would have definitely changed who I am, I guess. But the neighborhood we lived in was all missionaries. So it's like, they'd all have to come home for a year to like keep their citizenship. So your friends rotated every year. So you'd like make a new friend and like become best friends, and then they go back and then new people came. And so that was kind of weird growing up like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so went to Duncanville High School, all that stuff. Plan was like to play like college football. Blew my knee out in like junior or sophomore year. And so like I had a couple things that were like seemed to be interested in me, a couple colleges. Not like Division I or anything, just like, and that all kind of dried up once I blew my knee out. So decided to go into Marine Corps instead. And while in high school, kind of was what we would consider like a turd of a person. So I was like, good growing up, good parents, and then kind of had like my years in high school of just like getting in with different group of guys and doing different dumb things. So
were you a drug dealer?
Do what?
Were you a drug dealer?
No, no, just dumb, like focused on like self and, going to parties with friends and getting into fights and stuff like that. And, I was real quiet and shy in high school, but all my friends who were a lot smaller were all like very talkative. So they would start something and then I would like be like, well, you're not going to beat up my friend. So
right.
I didn't win a lot of fights. But yeah.
How'd your parents take that?
So when I was 16, I got my girlfriend at the time pregnant.
And I'll say I've met his parents. They are some of the nicest, like kindest, just like gentle people that you would ever. Yeah, no, but like when you think like missionary, like that's his parents. Like the missionary type, just like some of the like just nicest people. Like the type of person that you think about, like, oh, that's who I'm defending when I go to war or whatever. Right. Yeah. So then it's. Then this is what happens. That's like.
Would you describe them as more passive?
Yeah, kind of like. Yeah. So once I got my girlfriend pregnant, then like, they would give you responsibility. So like it would be more like they talk to you. They're not like strict, I guess. Like I'm probably more of a strict parent than they are. And then after that, it was kind of like, well, like. You're making your own choices. Like, let's see how this shakes out. We're just going to pray for you. Right. So, yeah.
It's like the biblical version of a punt.
Yeah. Basically. Well, and I was the youngest out of 5 kids. So I think they were like, all right, we had 4 good ones. Yeah. Like this one's Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
So
it's always the youngest,
Bad 800.
Yeah. But the son I ended up having with the girlfriend at the time, he's awesome. He's now 22. He's going to Oklahoma University. He's about to be a senior.
Oh, very cool.
Or he's about to be 22. Yeah, he's 21 now. And so, yeah, so he turned out to be like an awesome kid, an awesome man now, really funny, really smart guy. So definitely didn't get as smart for me, but yeah.
Whenever you're obviously your parents are religious, and I don't know if I'm familiar with Christian missionaries. I don't know if there's other types of missionaries.
That's what they were, Christians. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, that kind of goes against what they would ordinarily prefer. What was that dynamic like as far as managing? Hey, I've done this, but then also it's a kid. Like you can't not care about them.
Yeah. So, like they tried to, they backed me, supported me, but it was just a bad dynamic period. Like, because then me and her ended up breaking up, and then we didn't get along. So it was like trying to see him and stuff, but then not getting along with her. And so like as we got older, she got married to somebody else, and like so then like our relationship got like way better and stuff. And so
Right.
I was able to like see him a lot more as we got older. I was, like I said, I was a turd of a guy, so it wasn't like, I don't know. It was like, I don't want to go over there and get like yelled at by her kind of thing.
Right.
So then it's like, and I don't know. When you're young, you're just making like dumb stuff, so dumb decisions. So I would have, if I could go back now, I'd do a bunch of things different. But yeah, at least I got to have a relationship with him, so that's awesome. But yeah, and the guy she married is an awesome guy. So
good, awesome. So you're dealing with all that, and then you're how old when you decide to take the step and join the Marine Corps?
So I knew I was going to join when I was 17. So I joined like the Poolee program. And so like technically you get like a year as being a Marine if you like show up like all the time or whatever. And then I joined the reserves because I was still wanting to go to college or whatever. Didn't know what I wanted to do. And my brother had joined the Marines. I saw his Marine graduation.
Okay.
So my dad was in the Air Force. My grandpa was in the Army, and then my brother joined the Marine Corps. And when I saw that graduation, I was like, oh, like that's awesome.
Right.
It's always some dress blues, man. Like
It
gets
that
everybody.
Is like they don't have to recruit. Just show people.
I know,
in
dude.
uniform.
As an Army guy, even I look at that and be like, oh, they got it right. Because I mean, the Army's tried. They try real hard, but not the best track record when it comes to uniforms.
Yeah.
But yeah, those dress blues, man.
They're bringing, or they brought back, was what they call them, the greenies,
The pink and greens
pink and greens
from World War II.
Those are
those
solid.
look better. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because the blues just like we had dress blues, but they didn't look like y'all's dress blues. So like, I get it. Not that I would.
Well, then you go to that graduation, they're all leaned back marching, like it's just like there's
solid.
just not a single one out of step. Like it's pretty awesome.
And then you're watching them, like that looks awesome. And then you watch the girls watching them, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Some dress blues, man. That's what I'm saying.
So I went and did that. Like I didn't care what. Like I was looking at it more of like, hey, I'm gonna become or like I want to prove myself a man. Like I want to go through boot camp. So I didn't really care what my MOS was or what my job was. And so my dad talked me into. He did the Air Force, and so he learned a bunch. Working on planes. So he was like, you should do that. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I was like, I don't know if it's really what I want to do, but my recruiter was like, after a year and a half, you can change your MOS, so don't worry about it. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. And then, everybody has that. Right? So then, turns out the schooling for that is a year and a half. So then after a year and a half, I go see the career planner, and I'm like, hey, would like to change, MOSs. And he's like, yeah, that's not a thing. Like we just spent $1 million training you. Like you're not gonna. I was like, oh, cool. Like all right, whatever. So really, like
hey, my recruiter lied to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody gets
yeah,
shit.
Yeah, no.
They lied to everyone. It's okay. That's how we recruit people. Thought I was a really good Marine, and I enjoyed the Marine Corps, and promoted like pretty quick. But I was not a good Air Force or Air Wing mechanic. Like I just
that's problematic.
Yeah,
that's problematic.
Everything I did got checked. I could do the job. It's just like a ton of that was like back then was troubleshooting. So it's like you have to master like what you're doing in order to be like, hey, it's making this noise. I'm doing this thing. And like I just never got there. And like I never enjoyed it. Like it wasn't like I woke up every day just dreading going to do that job. And then
because it was C-130s, right?
Yeah, it was C-130s.
Yeah, those things are huge. Yeah. There's a lot, and they're old.
Yeah.
Like they're all super old. So I'm sure there's.
I wonder
there's
like one pilot who had put in a request for a sound it was making, and that he's hearing you say this now. He's like, shit. Yeah, you never got it.
I flew that thing after he looked at it. Like it's one thing like a Humvee, like hey, it's rattling or whatever, and you're like, I don't care. Like you can break down or whatever. If the plane breaks down. Yeah. Like, that's problematic. Like it's going to be exciting there for a few minutes,
right? So they have backups.
He's like, as long as I didn't check two on the same side, I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious when you said you weren't a good fit. I didn't know if you meant more because like me knowing what I know about you personally, or not really personally so much, but professionally, you're not really the typical air winger. And so I didn't know if you meant like culture wise.
Are you calling him dumb?
No, not at all.
Culture is very laid back. Like
right.
I actually enjoyed more of the structure of the Marine Corps and stuff like that. So,
you're a little bit more. You're a little bit more aggressive. A little more. I don't want to sound insulting. A little more squared away.
intense.
your typical rah kind of guy than you would typically see on the air winger side.
Yeah, and once I got in, I kind of realized like, yeah, I probably made a bad choice with the MOS that I picked. But so then they had McMap, Marine Corps Martial Arts, and so while I was in, I got my instructor tab to like teach those belts and stuff.
Oh, cool.
And they changed it to where like each rank you got had to have at least like this certain belt ranking. So of course nobody in the air wing had over like a tan belt, which is what you get in boot camp. So then I spent like the last 2 years I was in like on active duty orders and just like because I went in as a reservist, and so I was in a total of 11 years, and the last 2 years I did like orders, and so I was just teaching McMap the whole time, and that I loved.
Really?
So yeah, just everybody in the whole squadron basically had to like up to like whatever rank they were in belts. So all we were doing was teaching that, and that was like an enjoyment every day coming in. But then it was like, oh, time to go work on the plane. I was like, all right, great.
Yeah, that was like, hey, Grant, there's a rattling sound. He's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Let me show you this leg sweep real quick. Like,
Well, the funny thing is, he's saying he had this reaction of like, I gotta fix the plane, but he doesn't know the pilots and crew had the same reaction when they saw him.
Oh man, it's like that guy again. I lost 2 engines because of that guy.
Oh man, the only thing I wasn't crazy about with the big map was and I don't know, it might depend on the instructor, but what you actually learned was cool. The techniques was cool, but then like, in order to get to the point where they teach you the techniques, they just like beat the shit out of you for a week and PT you and like some of it's okay, but at a certain point it's like it's almost like
Sadistic,
can you survive
like,
the injuries? Yeah, there to get to the big back part. I was like, that killed me.
That's how the instructor class was. So like you had tan tab, which means like you could make other belts, but you can't make instructors. And then you had a red tab, which meant you're an instructor trainer. You have to go to Quantico to do that one, or at least back then you did. And it's like 6 weeks long, and they just destroy you. So when I went through my tan tab class, which was one of the most physically demanding classes, it was like only like 3 weeks, but holy cow, like every day you're just in an ice bath after. We had 3 red tab instructors that had just come back, so they were like trying to outdo each other to like break everybody. So I think we started with like 21 guys and we graduated 10 because it was just like one dude broke 2 ankles, like another guy broke his hand, like it was just everybody was getting broke. But the reason why the philosophy was, it was like if you learn it tired, you'll be able to do it when like you need to. And so that was the philosophy behind always making everybody work out like crazy prior to. I think, and it's just Marine Corps. So like we're gonna this could be fun and enjoying. Like, nah, we're gonna make this suck. Like,
They do it with the range. The range is should be one of the most fun things in the world. You're shooting all kinds of stuff, and they make it suck either one because you're standing around waiting, or if you want to go be a range instructor, again, that's cool. They're just gonna beat the shit out of you for days, and then start teaching you how to teach others how to shoot.
They have a great knack at making everything horrible. Like anything that should be fun is now horrible. Yeah.
And then when you get out, it's like, I hate hiking. I hate camping. Like, the range thing, like it took a while before I like started to enjoy it again because it's like, so
I
rigid.
remember I forget what it was. I don't know if it's the 240 or the 249, but of course the military being what it is, we had extra ammo, and rather than save it or use it later, it was just get rid of as much of it as possible. And so we were just going through belt after belt after belt, and it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to get up and go shoot this machine gun again. I want to stay in the shade, or I want to go eat. And I was like, when did this happen? I was like,
am I even a man right now? Like, I don't want to shoot this machine gun anymore. I got that way with the 50 cal, like the Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it beats you up when you're shooting it for like over and over, and it's like to the point where you're like, if I never shoot this again, I'm fine. And it's like, well, I got to slow down, like check my privilege here, my 50 cal privilege, because there's plenty of people out there that would love to shoot a 50 cal, and here I am just like, somebody else is paying for it, right? I mean, shooting it, and so it's like, it's...
Or you get back and your buddies are going to go, go to a range or go do whatever, or go camping or hiking, whatever, and they're paying money to go do this stuff. I'm like, hey, you want to come? It's like, no, you couldn't pay me to do that right now. Although I will say I went camping with my boys this last year, and with civilian equipment, it's not bad.
It's like, they have
so you have good equipment.
Nice.
Like,
I was.
When it's not from the 70s, it's like pretty nice.
Yeah, I've always just been like, I'm not camping. Like I've had my fill of it, whatever. And then they wanted to go, and I was like, I always said I'm not gonna be that guy that tells them no about something new thing they want to experience. And so we did it, and I was like, this is not bad at all. But
All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to try it.
it's really not.
Non,
Man. And it's not. The equipment's not super expensive. Like I spent like I think $300 on a tent that like we got a king size freaking air mattress, blew it up in there. I mean, it was cake.
Is that really camping?
I mean,
Is that really
you're in a
camping?
tent. I mean, it's
An
not
air mattress.
It's not. And
It's camping if I call it camping.
That's
Yeah,
true. I
if
mean,
we're
at our
more-
ages, though, we
Yeah.
need that. We can't be sleeping on the. Dude, I remember like sleeping on the hard ground at like 23, 24, and hopping up. It's like
Yeah.
the next day after being like 8 hours in one position and being like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Now
No-
it's like,
no way.
yeah, if I sit down on the hard concrete for like 30 seconds, I get up and it's just like, oh my God, everything hurts. It's like you can't. So I get the air mattress, but.
I mean, it's yeah.
I think do they have a term glamping? Isn't that what that term is? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't think
you were
that's
glamp.
glamping.
No,
That's shut up,
dude.
No, glamping
air
is-
mattress.
no,
you
that's
were
what-
glamping.
What my wife
100%.
does, my wife wants to go. She'll find a place that looks like it would be good for camping, and then rent a cabin there, and then wake up and go walk around in circles for a little bit and come
Yeah,
back.
see, I'll do that.
But that's just that's
Like
not
a
even.
hotel
That's
next
just
to-
renting a house.
like
yeah.
a hotel
Yeah,
next
that's-
to a river.
That's a rustic hotel. Like that's not.
Now I feel like I got to go get a 2-man tent with some leaks
Yeah,
and take them out.
just go to the rockiest ground.
I don't want to do that though.
No, don't do that. You don't have. You don't have to. That's a great thing. You don't have to. We have choices here. So after the Marine Corps, you did while you're going since it was reserve, you went to college, right?
Yeah. So at first I was like, well, maybe like I don't like working on planes. Maybe I like flying planes. So originally I went
Wow.
to.
So you knew how unreliable you were as a mechanic, and you still wanted to fly.
Yeah, I was like, somebody else can fix it. I'll just steer it.
Some other Grant can fix it, and I'll be the guy going, "Oh no, that's gonna be exciting."
So I went to college in Waco to become a pilot, but I was taking like loans out for because dude, the flight hours were crazy. So it was like the college was going to give you an associate's degree and give you like all your pilot's license, and I just was like throwing money at it, but because they would only give me this loan money in a certain amount of time, I would have to like wait and then refly the same hours. So I was just like. So it takes 40 hours to get your first pilot license, and I had way over 40 hours, but because I was re-flying the same hours, I wasn't that close. So I just eventually was like, hey, the other guys in this class, like they love planes. Like they would talk about planes for hours and stuff, and it's like, I'm like, let's just go drink, you know? Like,
Right.
so it's like, I'm not, like if I was competing with a job for these
After
guys.
post-flying, correct?
Oh, post-flying,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, once you land, it's like, still taxing,
Whatever.
but you're good.
You're on the ground.
Just you get the koozies, the tall ones.
Yeah. So the coolest thing I did there was I flew from Waco to Austin to a city called Palestine, and then back to Waco by myself, and like,
Oh, that's cool.
and then had a bunch of student loan debt. So that was cool.
That was an expensive flight.
It was. So then realized like that's not what I wanted. Still didn't know what I wanted to do. So then ended up going to UNT, University of North Texas up in Denton, and got a bachelor's in nonprofit management because again didn't know what I wanted to do.
I was
And so-
fully expecting to hear a crim, and then he said nonprofit manager.
Yeah. No, I was originally went for business and then realized like, oh, accounting sucks. I don't want to take accounting too. So what else can I do?
God, you
to
sound
not
like
take
me.
Accounting too.
It's like, yeah, like I theoretically want to do all these jobs, but then I wanted to be a nurse at one point because one of my kids got sick, and then pediatric nurses were amazing. So I enrolled in a course and everything, and I was like, oof, this is like. I think it was just my basics, but I was like, it's way too smart for me.
So graduated from there, and then like so by that time, I was like, hey, I'm gonna I want to be an officer in the Marine Corps, but it was like already pretty late, and so like they were downsizing the Marine Corps. That was when Obama was there, and they were like, hey, we got 2 spots with like 20 something guys putting in. Like you can put in, but they're not going to look at you because you're already over 25. And so I was like, oh, all right, well, never mind.
25 is old.
Well, yeah. Well, and I had never taken
You're
my
broke at
ACT
that
or
point.
whatever because I went to a community college first. So they were like, but you have to have an ACT score. So even though you have a degree, you're going to have to take your ACT. And I was like, never mind. So then I was going to join the Navy, and then ended up like destroying my back like right before that. So that was like me being like, yeah, God told me you didn't really want to join the Navy. I didn't really want to anyway. Yeah. And so then I had some Marine buddies that were all cops.
Oh, you're heterosexual.
So that's what led me here was like, all right, well, I guess I'll try the cop. And like literally God closed every single other door and was like, yes, be a cop. So never did a ride out, which like do not recommend for anybody. I got hired on with here and Dallas, and the academies were going to start in the same week, and just chose here because of the pay. One of my Marine buddies almost got me to choose Dallas because he was like, "Yeah, you couldn't handle Dallas," and I was like,
Right.
"Oh,
Yeah.
you almost got me, but the pay is I'm going to go with pay."
Isn't that how you got?
I've been broke the whole time.
Isn't that how you got in the
That's how I
Marine Corps? Like,
yeah.
nah,
like
you
same
can't handle the
tactic.
Marine Corps. You're like, done. No, what do I need to do? Like, I'll
Yeah.
do anything. Yeah, I'll change my MOS after a year and a half. Just
Yeah.
sign me
Yeah.
up for whatever.
Yeah. Dallas lets you switch your career after
Yeah.
Like, oh.
You could be a detective in like 6 months. Like, you want to go vice? Like, whatever.
It's amazing though. You can't. It's so hard to shut that off.
Yeah.
Like that
like, oh,
trait.
you say I can't? No, I'm going to go do
Yeah.
it.
Or
Yeah.
just knowing something sucks and like I just have to. I want to experience it.
He's still at Dallas. He's a great guy. And I had saw him at like a buddy's funeral. And I told him that. I was like, dude, you almost got me to join. He was like, oh, dude, I was totally just messing with you. I was like, you almost changed my whole life. I was like,
First time you see me, you're like, yeah, you couldn't handle it, Grand Prix.
Oh, that's funny. You ever try to get him to make the jump?
Yeah, but he's already promoted up, so he's like
okay.
invested. Yeah, and like by the time I joined, I think he had already been over there like 10 years or something. So,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that means he's been over there a while
Yeah,
because
he's
you've
been
been
there
here 10 years.
Yeah.
So he's been over. Yeah.
Man, we're getting old.
Time flies, though.
Yeah, it does. We were talking before that we started recording about having like friends who are master sergeants and stuff now in the Marine Corps, and it's weird.
Yeah.
We're those old guys now. So once you got to Grand Prairie, obviously just like everybody else, you started off in patrol.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like switch like that? The FTO experience, the whole becoming a recruit again.
So so I never did a ride out. So I went through. I was like, all right, God, and I was a quiet guy. Like I'm really shy. So
I thought this was Mike's actually. I'm glad.
Yeah. So I was like, man, like God's gonna have to change me in the academy. So like all I did was like, hey, I'm just gonna be the first one to volunteer for everything, right? And so that worked out on two things. One's it got me to not be nervous and like just do it, and two, your instructor, when you make the mistake, it's the first time your instructor sees it, right? So he's like, I'll adjust you. But when you're like the 10th guy to go through and you've made the same mistake, that's your first time for you to make the mistake, but it's his 10th time to see it,
Right.
and you get like chewed out. So I was like, yeah it's pretty smart.
Although I will say if the group is big enough and it's after lunch.
Oh, you just slide through. Yeah.
And
It was 10 people in my academy class, so like it wasn't big enough for that.
Yeah.
it was you went to Academy Class 2, right?
Yeah. And
OG.
so hit the streets and was like, I really hope I like this because just did 6 months, and like, dude, it was the first week where you just ride around and like watch them. I was like, this is awesome. Like
Yeah.
this is crazy. So yeah, FGO was pretty good. It's like drinking from a fire hose or whatever. Like it was just so much. Like the first time you drive, it's like this is like a spaceship. It's like so many things are going on, and still trying to like pay attention and drive. So hit some curbs.
At the worst thing you did in training?
No. So we get out. We parked on. We make a traffic stop. The car stops on the top of this hill. I stop behind it. I hop out, walk up to the window. We did a passenger side approach. Get up to the window, and then I see his car rock, and I was like, oh, like he must have just like let his foot off the brake. That's weird. And then I walk back to my car, and I realize like my car's touching his. Like, did he roll forward or did he roll back and hit my car? And then I get in the car and realize, oh, I didn't put it in park. And I turned came in my wheels, and so luckily, like the back of my car, like the front right of my car, barely touched his. Because if it wouldn't, it would have just like rolled past us, and then just down the hill. So we had to explain it, and he didn't speak English, and we had to explain to him like why he had to like wait for like this accident investigator to like show up. So, like,
No, we need to throw it out there, like you arrive, you've been driving for a while, but you are thinking about so many things especially on a traffic stop, because you got your FTO there that's like looking at you and you're trying to remember like, okay, I marked out, am I in the proper area? Did I get the license plate right? Okay, I did the light thing correct. Oh, that's night shift, so I got to turn on the takedown light. Oh, I got to do and all this, and then your FTO is like, why are you still in the car? So you're trying to do this as you're getting out of the car. Like it
Also,
overwhelms
is this
you.
guy going to try to kill me?
Exactly. So then you just forget some of the small things, like putting your car in park. It happens. It happens to a lot of people. Never happened to me, but it happens to a lot of people, right? Like I've had recruits that on numerous occasions forgot to put the car in park. Like
I don't think
it is something that does happen.
I forgot my gun. But never.
Okay,
I was out of jail.
Yeah, I think we've all done that.
Yeah, you're on a traffic stop and you're like, oh, like belayed your body. Yeah, you're free to go.
I'm a real cop, I promise.
Or when you go to back somebody on a DWI and you go like this, and then you're like, wow, I hope this doesn't go bad because we'll be fighting this way.
Yep. Oh, I don't know what's worse, but I was just working doing traffic detail a couple weeks ago or last week, and I slammed my own head into the steering wheel a couple times because I realized it's a real and you know what I'm about to say. It's a really hard habit to break, opening your door as you stop. And these new squads have a little surprise for you if you do that, where they'll stop for you real quick. And I felt so like I almost just let the guy go because I if he has to watch me be this stupid, I feel like I've wasted your time. But I opened it and it slammed, and I'd heard about that feature where it would put it in park for you. And I thought in my mind when I heard it, it's like, that's a terrible idea. Because like on a foot chase or something, I'm opening the door before.
Yeah, especially if you're riding two-man, your passenger always like, pops the door.
Yeah, and I didn't actually realize that I do it on a normal traffic stop until that day. But yeah, I did it. I was like, oh, okay, that's silly. The guy kept going just a little bit, put it back in drive, and went. And I did it a second time. I was like, whew.
It's like, maybe this isn't my moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you open it, it's like 5 miles an hour or something. I forgot what the threshold is. But if you on the new Tahoes, if you open the door, so if you on the other flip side, if you rely on that feature, but you open it before that threshold, so at like 10 miles an hour, it won't do it and it won't put it in park. So
yeah, but if you're going 10 miles an hour and you're trying to make your car jump in the park, you should probably retrain or something.
Well, what's the difference between 10 and 8? Can you look at a car and go, I'm going 10 versus 8?
I don't think I opened it at 8. It's like a couple miles an hour. And I'm not like skidding up to the car.
Just saying that like it has happened where someone relying on that feature,
right, and
the Tahoe kept on going while they're running this direction and Tahoe's going that direction. So it has happened. Terrible feature. Anybody from Chevrolet, if you're listening,
get rid of it.
Please get rid of it. And I'm sure there's a way to like probably unprogram it, but I don't
I'm
know
sure there's a ton of people in this world that need a computer to put the car in park for you. But if we're not,
no,
I just did one time. I mean, if we had done it that one time, it would have been great.
But. Yeah, that's good.
Well, yeah, you would have needed it at that moment, but now we remember because of those moments. So while I know after there was a time now, kind of speaking of mishaps with squad cars, like later on, several years later, that you got into 2 accidents in one night within like, I don't know, 20 minutes of each other.
They were accidents. So get a call at a disturbance. I like show up, like the guy's still there. He's like fighting the dad. So I show up, end up having to fight the guy who I'd showed up at the house. So fight him. I parked on the street, get him cuffed, put him in the car.
I love the way he frames that, by the way. Yeah, got called. Had to fight the dude.
Yeah, whatever.
Just,
Big map.
Fought him.
I actually did use a leg sweep, so it was pretty good. Get him cuffed, put him in the car, go back, get the info for the report, walk back. When I had put him in the car, there was nothing behind my Tahoe. When I walked back, I was talking to somebody else, got in the car, and then looked on the left, but we didn't have backup cameras then, and didn't look in my right. And the person, like the grandma had showed up and like parked diagonal behind me, and so I backed up, just barely bumped her, and it like dented her like front license plate. But since there was damage, I had to call out like an accident investigator. So as somebody else transports the guy for me, I had to wait out there for like an hour. He comes, and then as I'm driving to the station to go do my paper, all of a sudden I'm driving right by the highway, and there's like these like metal fences, and all of a sudden my side mirror just explodes, and I was like, what the heck is happening? And so get on the radio, and I'm like, hey, I need an AI. And the dispatcher's like, for the same thing? And I was like, nope. And then just computer blows up, which is like, what happened? So, yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, and the reason I like him to tell the story is because the second one's actually technically my fault. So while he's doing all this waiting, I'm working a wreck of a guy who had a diabetic episode. This is on the 161 Service Road, like where the Domino's warehouse is, like right across from that. And he had a diabetic episode, and he ended up like hitting the fence that blocks George Bush. And so when he did that, one of the poles like bent out. And of course, like they always ask, like especially when there's damage to guardrails, like, oh, is it obstructing traffic? And so I like back up a little bit and I look, I'm like, nah, we're good. Like we were super busy at night. I was like, no, it's good. But it wasn't good, apparently.
Not for Grant.
No, not
Fencing
for
was sticking
Grant.
out just enough to just take off my
I
side.
mean, I don't recall anybody else hitting that thing, so I don't know how close he was driving to the curb or
I went
whatever.
back and watched the camera, and like you had set like one cone, like right next. It's like, I just didn't see it.
So I will take partial, very. I'm not even partial, like a very small part of that responsibility. The second one, but
That's funny.
that was partially my fault.
I just like the way he described it. Like the mirror exploded.
Yeah.
Why are you going
I'm
like
just
50?
Like,
Like,
what?
it's
Like I'm just screaming,
at
like,
night.
what is happening?
I think you're getting shot at. Oh, that's funny. You made the comment when we started. You had plenty of embarrassing stories.
Yeah. So like my very first one, very first day, I just finished FTO. I'm hitting the streets. I'm like, all right, cool. Like we just finished briefing, walking out. Like, where can I go? I can go wherever I want. This is awesome. Nobody's riding with me. And I was like, where should I go? Well, QT, right? Like I'm not a true cop unless I get a QT drink first. So go to QT and like fill up this big old like large iced tea. And like as I'm going to put the lid on it, dispatches me to something. So like I go to like answer that while trying to put the lid on, and it just falls forward and hits and just explodes right over my crotch. Like only the crotch, whole drink. And I was just like, this is how I'm starting my career. This is me being a cop by myself right here. So I had to go like walk out, just threw it all away. It was like whatever, cleaned up the mess, threw it all away. It was like just went to the first call with a big old wet crotch. It was awesome. Yeah.
But it was night shift, right?
No, it was days.
nice.
I got cut loose on days, so it was like
so you could see it.
yeah, it was like 7:30 in the morning. Just walking.
You know,
to
the thing
that
is, like whenever I do stupid stuff, it's rarely like the safety issues or the discomfort or anything else. It's always like no one's gonna think I'm legitimately a cop.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna take me serious. Like, yeah, there's no way this guy actually is paid to do police stuff.
He can't even put his car in park.
Yeah. Oh man. Now when you were on patrol, did you ever train?
Yeah. So when I first got the first thing I got into was honor guard. I was in that for a while, and then did FTO, and then got on SWAT. That was kind of like the trifecta of what everybody was doing back then. So yeah, I was an FTO for 3 years. Something like that.
What was your experience with that as far as
When
you're trained one way in the Marine Corps, then you kind of can't bring that exact same style of training over to the police side.
Yeah, so not exact same, but no, like I would probably a stressful FTO. Like I would say that. I think everybody who had me would say like, yeah, like because I was nice and if I ever repeated myself, then that's where you got like yelled at kind of thing.
Right.
So it's like as long as you're like learning and like I can see like that you're listening to what I'm saying and like putting it into practice, making mistakes isn't an issue. Like you can make all the mistakes. It's when I like second, third, or well not second, but like third, fourth time I'm saying something to you, like I don't have time for that. Like if you're not going to listen, like there's no, you got to learn fast here. Like your life depends on it. So it's like, yeah, definitely yelling at some people. And
I can see the memory and the anger in your eyes.
Yeah. So I had one. He's not here anymore, so it's okay. So
Even if there was.
no, he passed FTO.
I say he's like, I fired him.
So man, he searches somebody and he's like in a rush to search him, and this was like a drug user. So it's like, take the time, put your gloves on. Like you don't know what they have. We had this whole conversation afterwards. Like, hey man, like I did that too when I was first. Like, take the time, put your gloves on. Okay. Like, do you have gloves? Yeah, I got gloves. Second time, same night. We search somebody, doesn't take the time, put the gloves on, get back in the car. Same exact explanation. While we're getting dispatched to a guy who had just a drunk guy who had ordered like $50-something worth of food at IHOP, which is an amazing amount of food, and then like skipped out on the tab. They were calling it in. He's leaving. So as we're driving, we had just come from the call where he failed to search him with gloves the second time. I'm talking to him about the importance of wearing the gloves. Right. So we get there, we find him like leaving the parking lot. We stop him, dude's super intoxicated. So we arrest him for like they want to press charges. So we arrest him for that and for the PI, and he goes to search him and he doesn't put his gloves on again. And I'm just like so mad. Like why am I wasting my breath with And he puts his hand into his pocket, and I don't know what's in his pocket, but it's something real gross because he makes this sign of just like And like he goes to pull his hand out to like, and starts reaching with his other hand to get his gloves. I was like, no. You're going to finish with your gloves. And so he pulls it out, and I'm holding a bag for him to put his stuff in. And it was just scrambled eggs, just a pocket full of and we booked it into the jail.
Can you imagine?
Like you booked the scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Imagine that like semi-cold, just like not
just,
expecting it, just because that's not where you expect scrambled eggs to be, right?
Yeah.
Like
I think he was happy that it was scrambled eggs when he pulled it out because I don't know what he was thinking it was originally. But yeah,
I'd be like, did this guy take like a long time ago and put it in there and it's cooled off?
Yeah. And the
there's so many gross things it could be.
Yeah. He was like, at the jail, we asked him about it, and he was like, well, I was saving it for a snack. And he was like, looked at us and was like, you don't like eggs? And I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, I do like it.
Not pocket eggs. like maybe scrambled on the plate, but once you put it in the pocket, that's like a no-go zone.
I love the drunk logic, though.
Yeah.
At least whenever it's like that, when it's an argument, it gets really old. But
So the funny thing about him is like, so you can kind of, I mean, you can hear him like, he's got like a low voice, like kind of intimidating, all that stuff. When he wants to sound less intimidating, he just makes his voice a little higher. So if you ever to call him, he's always like this is normal Grant. And then he's like, hello?
Yeah.
It just his voice goes like 3 octaves higher just to sound nice.
To sound pleasant. Yeah.
Instead of just embracing and be like, hello. Yeah. People are like, I don't want to talk to this guy.
Well, because if I answer normally, they're like, you just wake up. I'm like, no, I've been up for hours. It just sound like I just woke up.
So it's funny because it happens every time he answers. Hello? Like it's just, goes up several pitches, just like, hello?
But it's pleasant, right?
I mean, it sounds forced, so pleasantry, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we don't know him.
I think it was you who I saw do an extraction on the vehicle with people in it for the first time when I got here from my previous agency. Because where I was from, you basically just pointed your gun at people and yelled at them. Your instructions really loud and aggressive, and figuring they would listen eventually, and they did. But it kind of ratcheted up the whole dynamic. I think I'm almost positive it was you I saw do an extraction on a vehicle one time, and you were super calm. And it was really effective. And that kind of altered the way I did things going forward. And I have been consistently impressed with the results.
I found if you calmly tell them stuff, like especially like if you move, you're going to be shot.
Right.
But you say it's super calm, it's way more believable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's like, oh, like that guy is not stressed. He is like clearly giving me instructions that like I don't want to disobey. So yeah, I found it to be more effective. Yeah.
I think there's probably less lost in translation.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get that sudden flood of adrenaline like they do when someone's like, hey, this is a normal traffic stop. And then all of a sudden, okay, it's not. Now I'm screaming at you.
Well, and it's weird. It's like I might be stressed on the inside or excited on the inside, but my body doesn't like show it for some reason.
Right.
Which is like great for this job. But like at home, like my wife, like she'll give me like a gift that like she's like all excited about, especially when we were first married. And I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. Thanks. And
See,
like,
did you hear it?
Like, yep.
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
It went a little higher, right?
Yeah. And she's like, that's it. And I was like, I'm like super excited. Like, this is really great. Like, I appreciate it. So she just had to learn like, yeah, that's just how I am. Like, I don't know. You don't show that emotion, but.
Right.
Because if you try to show excitement, it'd probably be like super fake. Like, oh, well, you don't like it, right? Like, it's
going
to
be so forced. You just be like, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, that's backfired though, like being calm. Because I remember one time I pulled over a car at a fake paper tag. And when I read off the tag I was up at the window, read off the tag off the registration sticker, they said it was stolen. And so like I'm talking to the guy, we're having like a conversation, I'm waiting for the back to get there. And it finally got to the point where the conversation was really over. And I was like, all right, man, go ahead and put your hands on the steering wheel or whatever. And then he like puts them up there, and then he's like, and then he starts like digging around for something. And so that's when my gun came out, and then I was like having to ratchet it up. So like sometimes like saying it calm, he was like, oh, okay, like whatever. And then like he didn't feel a need to obey me at that point till I like got a little angrier, and he looked over and realized I had my gun out. But
right.
So I guess it is a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah.
I had somebody complain that I tased them because I didn't yell at them first. That's pretty recently. Like I told them to stop, or I was going to tase them, and they didn't listen. And in fact, he squared up like he wanted to box me. And yeah, I just tased him because that's what I said I was going to do. And
man of your word.
His complaint was that I didn't yell at him first. He's like, you didn't even yell at me.
I don't have to.
Okay. He's like, you just want to hurt people. I was like, not really.
No, because I got to do so much more paperwork.
Yeah, and I haven't done any of it in like 4 years, and it was
way different. Yeah.
Complete learning. Yeah, I think I talked about it before, but getting the computer out of the car was the hard part for me.
Yeah.
If you ever come back to the streets, you're gonna have to go back through FTO.
Won't be that bad.
No, you
I work enough OT.
yeah, it's true. keep up.
So as far as things going forward for you, obviously you're on the street still. You're still in a patrol-like capacity.
Yeah.
And you're in a squad car, slightly different uniform, but more specialized. I know from seeing y'all work, y'all enjoy what you do. Do you have any plans on doing anything different, or?
Eventually, my plan is test. But so in our unit, we go after like gang members and stuff, and that's what I like to focus on inside of our unit, which covers just a ton of things. We're kind of like the catch-all. But for the most part, we're going after known offenders, which is like you actually get to go after legit bad guys, which is pretty awesome. But we got the chance of filing our own cases. We had that for like a very short time, thank God, because that was like so much paperwork that I was like, oh yeah, like all the fun stuff is like it's not here. Like none of this is fun to me. So like that showed me because I did think like maybe like a doing detective would be cool. I think it would be cool to know how to do that stuff, but for a long period of time, I think I would. I don't like sitting behind the desk. Like I get like antsy kind of, and I think that would be an issue. So, So
it's same for me. That's why you always see me popping up at stuff y'all are doing when I'm trying to get overtime.
Yeah,
but
patrol
I will say that. What's that?
Patrol deployment is kind of like the only things back and forth. But I liked patrol. Patrol was awesome. So.
Yeah, being on the streets it's like that's what everyone assumes when they think cop work is like the guy in a squad car on the streets. Right.
Well, and I always think it's funny even other cops view detective as like a promotion. That is not like at all.
It's like a demotion.
Easy.
That's how we view it.
That's just us. Oh, my bad.
You're lesser than we are. But yeah, it's a different kind of work. And I'll admit it feels a little corporate after a while. But when you get the cases where it's like, hey, I'm actually getting to work this up. It's like what y'all were doing is the worst possible part of my job, where it's like it's super straightforward. You saw what you saw on the street, then you file it with the county and say this is what happened. It is really fun when you get the case and it's like, hey, let's try to figure out, who this is, and then you work it from there. And then your filing is less just stacking paperwork and more explaining why you can prove who it is. And that part's fun. It's more fun when you get one of them and not 8 of them at a time. But
yeah, for sure.
We'll see. Well, are we done?
I don't know. What's the time?
Oh, yeah, we're past.
No.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Yep.
I don't know did you get made to do it, or did you agree, or did he talk you into it?
I don't know. I got an email, so I showed up.
Because like I've been around you enough to know that you are fairly quiet unless there's like a very specific thing to talk about. So when I saw your name on the email, I was like, oh, cool. I was like, Joe must have threatened you or something. And
oh yeah. Like I'm a threaten him. Like what? Like he knows McMap. I don't know anything.
Oh yeah.
Like you think I'm gonna make him do something?
It only works if you don't know anything.
And now it's true. And technically, even though we're like officers, like he has badge on me.
That's true.
He's TL on SWAT, and he's like the most senior guy on deployment, so he's always acting sergeant. So, like, I got no leverage. Well, I've got leverage, but I don't want to use that leverage that I have because that's stuff for later.
I don't want him to go to jail. But all right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it, man. Yep. It was a good time.
Thank you.
All right, till next time.